Okay, guys, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a review to kind of refresh your memories on some things on Imagine Math. I know it's been a while since we've talked about these things, but I want them to stay fresh in your mind, hence why I've assigned them. Your notebook would come in handy. It'll also be helpful for you to show work on a scrap sheet of paper with you while you're working, because I guarantee you that you'll be a lot more successful if you're writing these things down as you go along. It is much more challenging to try and do this off the top of your head without any assistance whatsoever. And I think some of you may have access to a calculator, not sure, but if not, I know you use them anyway, so as long as you're getting the work done, that's all I really care about. I really want you to stay sharpening your math skills, because not only will you need them for high school, but you'll just need them in life in general. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the sample problems on Think Through Math to jog your memories and kind of to help y'all get through some of these lessons. They are not designed to be tedious or to spend a whole lot of time on, so keep that in mind. All right, so this is operations with rational numbers. You play a board game with your little brother. You pick a card that sends you back 5 spaces. So remember at the beginning of the year we talked about positive and negative words and keywords that are going to be in word problems. These are some of them. Back is one. Back again is another. Forward is one. So those mean something. Back means negative. Back means negative. Forward means positive. I'm going forward. That's a good thing. If I'm going back, that's not a good thing. Okay. So over here, I'm going to kind of show you my thinking and how I'm showing my work, which is what I want y'all to do as well. So you pick a card that sends you back 5 spaces. So over here, I'm going to write a -5. Then on your next turn, you must move back 3 more spaces. So I'm subtracting 3. I need another negative number, and it's got to be 3. And then on your third turn, you get to move forward 3. So I'm going to add 3 there. Okay? Which expression best shows how you could find your new spot on the board game? So they did it a little differently here. When you're subtracting, you are technically adding a negative. Okay? So that could be written 2 different ways. It can be written like I have it here, or it can be written as -5 minus 3 plus 3. Okay? Same thing, you'll get the same answer. What happens is these 3's actually cancel out, and I'll just end up with -5 because I'm going to end up back where I started. And here, these 3's will also cancel out. I'll still end up at -5. They don't want me to solve it. They just want me to get started solving it so that when I do get to that point in my question, I know what to do. So these are building blocks for answering the questions later on in this quiz. So I need to find one that matches. This adds a -3 and it adds a -3 again. Are we adding a -3 here? No. So this one is wrong. This one right here adds a -3 and then adds a +3. That is probably going to be my best choice. Over here, I'm adding 3 and adding 3. Nope, because my 3 has to be negative. The second 3, or first 3. And then over here, these are both negative, and that is not true. One is negative, one is positive. So this is my best answer. Check. Move on. All right, a submarine starts at the surface of the water. So if you're at a submarine, oh, you guys are about to see Miss Starling's drawing skills. So here's the water. Whoop, whoop, whoop. This is at sea level. Where's my submarine? Yes, and give it some windows. All right, so here's my submarine. This is sea level. So I'm going to draw this right here is 0. Okay. The sub then goes down 100 feet. So down here, this would be -100. Okay. And over the next 3 hours, it goes down 150 feet per hour. So I'm going down even more. I'm going down to -150. For another hour, -150. For another hour, -150. For another hour. I've gone down 150 3 times, hence the word time. I'm going to multiply 150 by 3, but it's all going to be negative. And then I'm also going to add that to my already -100. Where will I be? So 150 times 3, negative. 3 times 0 is 0. 15, carry the 1. 4. I'm going want to be a negative 450, and I want to add my already negative 100. So I will be at same signs, add and keep. So 450 plus 100 is 550, and then it's going to be negative. Boom. All right, new pick. Who this? You and some friends go miniature golfing. Your score is 3 below par. Below means -3. So come over here, -3. One of your friends has a score that is 12 over par. So positive 12. What is the difference between your two scores? You can think of par as 0. So I want to go from here to here. If I draw my number line, I've got my -3 here, and then I want to get to 0, and then I want to get to positive 12. So how many steps does it take me to get to 0 here? This is 3. And then how many steps will it take me to get to positive 12? This is 12. If I add these together, the difference here is 15. One winter morning in Canada, the temperature at 8 a.m. was 1.5 degrees Celsius. There's my beginning. From 8 to 11, the temperature increased. Increase means to add by 7/10. From 11 to 2, it dropped. That means negative 2.6. And then from 2 to 5, it increased by 0.9. I'm sorry, decreased by 0.9. So negative 0.9. So this 2.6 has to be negative. This 0.9 has to be negative as well. Let's find an expression that matches what I wrote over here. Each time I need to make sure that I start at 105 or 1.5. This does, this does, this does not, this does. So this already right here is an answer that I can rule out, get rid of. Over here, I have 1.5 plus 0.7. Cool. Then I'm subtracting a negative. If I'm subtracting a negative, that means I'm minusing the opposite, or I'm making this the opposite of what it is. And right now, this would make it a positive. I don't want that. 2 negatives make a positive. Over here, 2 negatives would make this positive again. These numbers right here are not positive. So this is not my answer right here. 1.5, cool. Positive 0.7, cool. Again, this negative sign is going to make these the opposite of what they are. And I don't want that. I want them to stay negative. So let's move on. This has to be my answer because these aren't it, these aren't it, these aren't it. 1.5, 0.7. I'm adding a negative. Yep, that means I'm keeping this as is, and I'm adding another negative, and I'm keeping that as is. So this has to be my answer. All right, last problem in rational numbers before I move on to a different concept. Drag steps in the given order to evaluate this expression. So I have -3 times the quantity of -3 plus 2 minus 6. So I have to apply order of operations here. I have to do what's inside first. So this is -3 plus 2. Different signs I'm going to subtract and then keep the sign of the greater absolute value. So that's going to be my negative. So my answer is going to be -1 because 3 minus 2 is 1, and I have to keep this sign right there. So this is going to be -1, and then rewrite it, -3 minus 6. So here I've got to apply the addition or multiplication and division rules, where same signs are going to give me a positive answer. So -3 times a -1 is going to be a +3 minus 6. Then I'm going to go back to the beginning part of my riddle. Same signs add and keep, different signs subtract, keep the sign of the greater absolute value. My greater absolute value here would be this negative, so my answer is going to be negative. Find the difference. 6 minus 3 is -3. There's my answer. So let's see here. These answers are giving me -9. -3 plus 2. That's -3 plus 2 is a -1. So -3 times -1 is +3 minus 6. None of these answers are correct. That's so weird. Drag steps in given order to evaluate the expression. Okay, let me redo this. Let me distribute this -3 and then see what I get. So start over, don't save. -3 times -3 plus 2 minus 6. So I'm going to distribute here and distribute here. So this is 9 minus 3 times 2 minus 6. There we go. That's where they got that from. Okay, now we're talking. So, whoops. So we've got 9 minus 3 times 2 minus 6. So that'll be 9 minus 6 minus 6. Or plus the -6. Same thing. All right, so now let's look at it. Should be positive 9 plus a -6 minus 6. I think this is it. And then we end up at 9 plus -6, so that's going to be 3. Why is it there we go. Minus 6, and I'm still going to end up at -3. I just did it a different way. Hence why math problem solving doesn't always have to be done one way. Feel free to find your own as long as you are getting the correct answer. And let's cross our fingers and see if I did this correctly. Yay! All right, so let's move on to probability really quick. All right, so the probability, this is making predictions. This is where you have a sample set, and then you want to know what it would look like for a larger group that you can't necessarily sample yourself, or you cannot perform that experiment yourself because it's too long or it's going to take too many trials. So it says the probability that you roll on a 2 on a 6-sided die is 1 out of 6. If you roll the die 60 times, how many 2s can you expect to roll? So again, this is expectational. This is theoretical. What should happen if I roll a die 60 times? I should get a 2 this many times. You could do this 2 ways. You could take this fraction and multiply it by this whole number, or you can create a proportion, which is how I taught it. And you're figuring out what is the equivalent. So 1/6 is my probability, or my chances of getting a 2, and then 60 is my total. My total always goes at the bottom. Okay, x goes here. I can cross multiply and then divide, or I can find out what I do to the 6 to get to 60, and then do that same thing to the 1. So this is times 10, and this would be times 10, and this would end up being 10 times would be a 2. Or if I take 1/6 and I multiply it by 60, I would put a 60 over 1. 1 times 60 is 60. 60 divided by 6 is still 10. So I've done that a couple different ways. 10 2s, check. Move on. You have a batting average of 0.300. This is 3/10 or 300 thousandths. This means that the probability of your getting a hit is 30%. Okay, what do I do with percents? Always convert them to a decimal, or in this case, it was already converted to a decimal. Okay, if you have 540 attempts this season, how many hits can you expect to get? So again, I can do this way in a proportion. 30% means 30 out of 100, and then I want 540 in x, or I can do 0.3 times 540. I prefer this way right here. So let me clear my page so you can see my work. 540 times 0.3. 3 times 0, 3 times 4, 3 times 5. And then I need one number after the decimal, 162 hits. Remember, whenever you see a percent, convert it to a decimal, then multiply. Same thing with tax and tip. Okay, last one. Judging from past bowling games, the probability that you will get a strike in a game is 40%. If you bowl 35 games, and how many games could you expect to bowl a strike? So 35 times 0.4 will give you your answer here. And my time is about to end on my video. I'll post another one in a few. Bye, guys.